Hi, my name's Margaret Stalker, and this is my hints and tips for animal communication. So I put my name forward to do Joanne's January challenge, and so it's the first time I've ever done anything like this. So please bear with me. But today I'm going to talk through the process of how I connect with animals and the way that I've found works for me. So what I did initially was, as I was trying to work out which animals I wanted to connect with, I went through each animal individually in the practice den and asked them, which ones would like to work with me on, presenting some hints and tips. So Nutmeg was the first animal teacher that stepped forward, and so I briefly connected with Nutmeg before, and what I was getting is that Nutmeg would like people to step forward and communicate with her. And she's a really gentle soul, Nutmeg, and she said she'll guide you through, and it won't always necessarily be a communication that links with the questions that are on the practice den. She might not always want to talk about the particular question, because one of those is to do with her grief when she lost one of her friends. It depends on the day and how she's feeling, but she said just for everyone just to connect with her and to see what they get. But what I was picking up with Nutmeg as well was I was getting that there's a fun element to her, so she wants things to be a little bit light-hearted, because obviously what she's saying is sometimes because of the aspect that she's been grieving the loss of a partner, that things can get a little bit heavy, but she wants a bit of lightheartedness there as well. So for those of you that haven't submitted any animal communications as yet, I just kind of briefly wanted to remind you that the purpose of the group and why I absolutely love the group as well. And it's because you're connecting with people that have got like the like-minded individuals. It's a safe place to practice. Everybody on the group is really supportive, and the names in the group, it's a confidence booster, so it's there for you to be able to practice your communication skills without the fear of being judged or or people putting you down. And as you'll have seen, everybody on the group works together. There's a lot of teamwork in the group, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful group. So so I would like to encourage you to, if you haven't already, to begin to communicate. And one of the things that, as I was thinking about my communication with Nutmeg, was mine is a process of evolution. Things are constantly changing with how I connect, with how I start a session. It's really evolved from when I first started, because when I first started with animal communication, I kind of almost had a little bit of a ritual, which kind of didn't really work for me, which I discovered. And it was actually talking to Joanne in one of the sessions that she gave me some hints and tips, because what I used to think, that we needed to do was a long meditation to get you in the zone, as it were. But in fact, what I find with, as much as I love meditating, if I do a long meditation before an animal communication session, I'm so relaxed that I end up kind of almost nodding off during the communication, which it made me feel as though I was being rude and disrespectful to the animal as well. So now I still do a very brief meditation. And what I'm also interested in exploring more is Joanne popped a video on Facebook, I think it was last week, about expanding our toroidal fields. And I think that is something that I'm going to explore more and work with that more prior to an animal communication session. So if you've not watched that already, just scroll through the practice den, sorry, not the practice den, the group, and give that a go. But I also used to have lots of different tools I would use, so prior to doing the meditation, I would have aura sprays I was spraying. I might have my crystals around me. I still do work with crystals, and I have a crystal grid set up as well. But I always felt I had to connect with those beforehand. So it was a big process for me initially prior to doing an animal communication. As I say now, I just do a very brief meditation. I connect with earth energies and source energies, and I kind of center myself to try and help me focus, because one of the things I struggle with is maintaining focus. So as I begin a session, I would have the animal's photograph in front of me to start to connect. I used to initially jot everything down as it came through, but I found initially when I first started off, that I would get the odd words, I'd get some visualizations, but it was all a little bit jumbled. So then it would take me time to try and, type it up, and I would connect with the animal again as I was typing it up to try and make sense. Now what I do is I copy and paste the questions from the practice den straight onto an email. So I'm ready to go. So basically I have the photograph in front of me. I look at the photograph and I set the intention. So for me, the biggest part of the animal communication side of things is intention. So, a lot of people, they always say things in threes. So, it's intention, intention, intention. And that kind of just gets me kind of going. And, that is one of the things, as I check in with Nutmeg, that she says it's all about the intention as well. And, if you've got your intentions set, you can't go wrong. So as I connect, how do I know I'm connected? Well, that's one of the things when you first start off that you do doubt is, is this my imagination or am I actually connected? So what I note, or what I feel now, is that there's a change in energies as you connect with the animal. But again, everybody's different. There's no right or wrong way in doing things, and that's something that I've learned as I've gone through the process. But I very much I do try and connect with my heart. And so when I'm connecting with an animal, I'm kind of in my head, I'm thinking, from that heart connection, from my heart to their heart. And I really trust in the process. And I just feel if you've set your intention, you trust in the process, then we're good to go. So for me, when I initially connect, I generally see the animal in the distance. I normally get a visualization as well as feeling the energy. And the visualization I get is usually different to the photograph I've been looking at. So that's usually where I know things are, you know, we are connected and things are moving forward. I always introduce myself. I tell them my name, and I ask permission to speak with them. I don't rush this process, and you know, it takes a little bit of time. So what I tend to do is I'll maybe just sit with the animal for a little bit. I'll let them observe me, and I'll observe them. So that's about them gaining trust in me as well. And it's also, for me, it's about getting used to each other's energies and feeling comfortable in each other's energies as well. So for the communication itself, initially I got a lot of things more via knowingness and visualization. So I was getting just a lot of random words popping in and a lot of images. So I was kind of struggling sometimes to make sense of the images, but now I kind of, if it's something that I'm not understanding, I will try and question it and ask them to show me something in a different way, whether it might be through feelings and sensations. Taste, personally, is one I haven't really explored too much myself at the moment. I've kind of hung back on that one. But you know, that will come, I'm sure, in time. As I say, I've just not gone down that road as yet. But yeah, so there's a lot of knowingness there. And what I found with my early communications was, because I was like trusting what I was getting with the knowingness and the visualizations, I wasn't maybe digging as deep. But, you know, that's a good place to start. You know, we all have to start somewhere. So, you know, the words and things, you know, the images, I just worked with them. And as I learnt more from the practice den, I started to question things more, to dig a little bit deeper, because that's what I was finding, was that sometimes I just wasn't going deep enough. And that's where, again, it's just all about the practicing. And, you know, for me, I do have, like a lot of people, I do have moments in time where I doubt myself, where, you know, confidence can become an issue. But a friend once told me, and I've not got it in front of me now, but I usually had written on a little post-it note, and it almost became my mantra, was to trust in your ability and the confidence will come. And I used to have it on a post-it note, and it was just either on the inside of my laptop. So every time I opened it, I would see this little phrase. And, you know, I've really embraced that, and it's helped me a lot. So one of the other things I found while I was communicating is I would often lose focus, you know, because as I mentioned initially, I did this big long meditation, which made me feel really relaxed. So that once we started, you know, with the actual communication itself, I was either feeling as I was going to nod off, or, you know, my mind started to wander a little bit. And again, chatting with Joanne, and, you know, I mentioned this problem. One of the things that was suggested was, instead of me sometimes, you know, relaxing to calm the energies down, I needed to do the opposite and do a little bit of movement to get the energy flowing. But also, Joanne helped me realise that I don't have to do the communication all at once. I can dip in and out of the communication. So that's what I find now that really works for me, is doing, you know, little shorter snaps of a communication, and coming back to it. So what I'll do is, generally it can be over a period of 2 or 3 days that I might do the communication and come back and forth to it. However, there was one recently where it took me 2 weeks, I think, to complete it, because every time I sat down to do a communication, Lacey started barking, so I couldn't concentrate. So I kept coming in and out of it, and it worked. And in the end, it worked really well. And I was pleased with the communication, and that helped. Other things, when I'm doing a communication, I don't always do a body scan of the animal. It's only if I really feel guided to that I'll do a body scan. So sometimes it might be, part way through, I get a sensation that there might be something where some discomfort in the animal, or it may pop in, like I might get an image of a particular part of the animal that I might be drawn to, and I might think there might be an issue there. So when that happens, I do tend to do a body scan. And my way of doing that is I would always start at the head, and it's almost like, if you go to the hospital and you go into one of the big, I forget what you call them, the big machines that scans your full body, and it goes from your head to your toe and then back up again. And that's kind of how I do it as well. But again, I do trust in the process. I do trust with what I'm getting. However, I do understand now that there's times I need to dig a little bit deeper to kind of to get a better sense of what's going on, because you can miss things. So yeah. So what would be next? So you've finished the communication. You're happy with what you've got, and like many others, I'm sure we've all got to the point of, thinking, right, we've got this done. I'm just going to check through it again. So you've checked through it, and there's still something there that's just stopping you from pressing that button. So you think to yourself, right, I'm just going to check and make sure there's no typos, that the grammar's may be correct or whatever. And then you've done that. And then what do? You go back, well, I'm just going to check. I don't know what I'm checking, but I'm just going to check it again. And it's all this, it's the having the confidence just to press that button. And we've all been there. And, it's sometimes you feel it's a big thing to press the button to send that email. But again, as I mentioned at the beginning, there to support each other. So never worry about actually sending the email with your communication on, because if something comes back, and I've done this as well, if something comes back, it hasn't resonated with the animal's person, you can go back into to communicate with the animal again, and just double check that, just to say, right, well, I got this, it doesn't resonate. Can you explain it a bit further? Can you show me, and just question it a little bit more. And, you've got to remember as well, all the members of the group, we're all at different stages of our animal communication journey. We've all got different life experiences, and life experiences really add to the communication. So that's where we all pick things up slightly differently, or we've got different skill sets that we use that might come forward in a communication as well. So just once you get that communication completed, excuse me, just press that button. It doesn't matter if there's any spelling mistakes, you haven't quite got your grammar right, just go for it. So then the next step is you waiting, and the feedback, you get that email, the feedback's there, and you're kind of excited, possibly. You're intrigued, but you're also a little bit apprehensive about opening the email and reading it. So just go with it. You know, I'm always excited to read it, but you still get, you know, that little bit. It's, you know, again, confidence, a little bit of apprehension. Do you think, oh, what if I made it all up? However, until you actually read it, you don't know. So, you know, it's definitely an exciting when the email pops back in for me. And, you know, we get such detailed feedback off all our animal teachers, humans, and, you know, I find that really insightful as well. And, you know, I've taken the feedback and it's helped me as I've gone on to, you know, to do communications with other animals. And, you know, so sometimes it is, I just need to dig a little bit deeper. So as for Nutmeg, she's really wanting everybody to connect with her. She is she's a lovely lady, you know, a very gentle soul, very characterful, and she's got such a lot to share, she says. And, you know, if you're worrying about communicating, she said to just go in and introduce yourself. You don't have to do a full communication. You can just go in, whether it be you ask her about a character, you ask her about, you know, the food she likes, or you could ask her about, you know, her environment. But if you don't feel up to doing that, just pop in and say hello. She would absolutely love it. And as I said, she wants to bring some fun into her communications as well, she said, because yeah, she has found things difficult recently, but she said that she would absolutely love to share her wisdom. She's got a lot to share. And she said, you know, whenever you do communicate with her, she said, please let Heather know that she'd like some extra treats. So, so that's kind of how I would connect. And with an animal like Nutmeg, like I say, I would probably go in, introduce myself initially, maybe learn a little bit about her character and the environment, and then excuse me, I would possibly leave it at that, because one of the things for me, as I was saying, I do lose focus, so that's something I do need to kind of work with. But also it's the time scale, because it can take us quite a long time to do a communication from start to finish by the time we've, you know, connected and then, you know, written everything up. So it's finding what works for you. So I'd like to thank you all for joining me today, and, you know, I look forward to seeing how many people communicate with Nutmeg as well. Thank you.